Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Our topic today is climate change, yes, and how it relates to Bible prophecy. Climate change, Russia, and the dollar. First article, before we get there, I just want to throw this one in. This is from Wikipedia. Space Delta 18. The United States Space Force that has served the National Space Command, headquartered Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, calls himself Space Delta 18. Now, why is that interesting? Well, 6 plus 6 plus 6 equals 18, and that may be a hidden way of saying 666. Anyway, space missions evaluating capabilities and performance limitations and vulnerability of the space and counter space systems and services is their goal. However, I want you to notice here, what is this? Does that look like a Christian symbol to you? It doesn't to me. It's another thing that lets us know who's really in charge, and it's not Christians, it's not Jesus. Let's go on. Walmart cancels billions in orders to clear out inventory excess. That's right. They have such a big inventory, they have to just cancel billions of orders. Or maybe they're cooperating with their masters, telling them that they need to have a food shortage. It's another thing pointing to they do have a food shortage planned, and frankly, I'm surprised that we haven't seen more of it. But again, it's another thing letting us know it's coming for those people that want to know. Thousands of scientists signed formal declaration there is no climate emergency. All right, now, this is what I want to talk about. It's been on my heart for, 4, 5, 6 months to talk about climate change. So do I think that the earth is warming? Do I think that there is a climate change? Does it say anything about climate change in the Bible? No. But since CERN has come along, they're forcing it to become a climate change. Now remember, according to what Vicki Parnell said, she saw that when they turned on CERN, it caused these basically upside-down test tube-looking things to pull in the atmosphere and begin pulling outer space down into the Earth and causing all sorts of problems with our Earth. So since we know that CERN is actually causing this climate emergency, this global warming, or its destruction of our planet, Leslie had a prophetic word, 12, 15 years ago, and it basically said that green is red. In other words, there's not really a climate emergency, but they're causing it, and this is all part of their plan. This article goes on to say, a growing number of scientists and other professionals, experts, are of the same mind that so-called global warming and other climate change fictions are just that, fictions. At least 1,200 of them have signed on to the World Climate Declaration, which declares that there is no climate emergency. That's right, there's not. In other words, it's not the problem of the earth, it's the problem of the people that live on the earth. They have high technology that are destroying the earth. Despite what corrupt governments and academic institutions claim, it turns out that the climate is always changing, and humans play little to no role in temperatures and weather patterns which are dictated by factors far outside the control of the mankind. Well, obviously, they don't know about scalar wave. They don't know about some of the technology that they have that can destroy the Earth, specifically CERN. They probably don't know that there's actually 3 of those particle generators. Frankly, I didn't know that there was 3. I only knew that of CERN until Vicki Parnell was shown there's actually 3 of them. Colorado River on brink of catastrophic collapse brought on by historic drought. What do you think is causing this? This is not the hand of God. This is the hand of Satan. Okay, so why is the Moloch and Baal worshippers behind the scalar wave? Why are they causing the drought in the western United States of America? Well, part of it is directly they want to kill people. Part of it also is they want to cause this catastrophic collapse so that when the water drops, there's less food. It's all part of the food shortages. It's all part of destroying our world so that they, as they've said to Benjamin Fulford, we rule this planet for thousands of years and we'll destroy it rather than give it up. And with some of the things that the White Hats are doing out there, we hear they're apparently arresting a lot of people in high places. A lot of them probably these Moloch and Baal worshippers, and their goal is to try to clean the planet of them. I do not think there's going to be successful. Prophecy says that they aren't going to be removed until Jesus finally returns on the last Feast of Trumpets and removes them with the morning star. Goes on to say today's Colorado River projections are a dire warning for the American West to eliminate rampant, corrupt, corporate water abuse before it's too late. Okay, it's not that we're using too much water. It's that they're using scalar wave to heat the atmosphere. They might make large areas of the atmosphere super hot or super cold. And, of course, that can make tornadoes and hurricanes and big snow problems and ice problems, and this is what they're doing. It goes on to say the U.S. Department of Interior ordered Arizona, Nevada, and Mexico to draw less water from the river on which 40 million people rely. This one river in America, 40 million people. Look, if you want to cause a problem, that's a very good way to do it. You dry that river up, and 40 million people get in trouble real quick. It goes on to say that Arizona uses about 1/5 of its state's annual allocation. Arizona is a fifth of this river. 8% is Nevada. Mexico's allotment is going to be cut by approximately 7%. They're running out of water. If you'll take just a minute, I know I've talked about this before. This is really important. If you take just a second and look at these pictures, in case you're only listening, you should actually take a second to look at these. So you see the picture to the left is what this lake looked like in 2000. Then in 2021, it had shrunk, I'm going to say, by 3/4 smaller. And today, it's barely even there in 2022. It says the move came after Colorado River Basin states failed to meet a federal deadline at the end of Monday to come up with a plan to achieve 15% reduction in water use, an amount scientists say is needed to prevent water stored in dangerously depleted reservoirs from dropping even further. Every sector in every state has a responsibility to ensure that the water is used with maximum efficiency in order to avoid catastrophic collapse of the Colorado River system. I don't know what is a catastrophic collapse. Okay, now, what would happen if there were not enough water? I know what you're thinking. Well, they wouldn't be able to water the lawn as much. It's worse than that. Oh, they wouldn't be able to take a shower. It's worse than that. What do you think waters the crops that feeds most of America? And where do most of our vegetables and our fruits come from? Western United States. So this is something, my brothers and sisters, we need to be praying about. Matter of fact, I've got to add this to the fast track prayer that we stop this. It goes on to show here in another article, Kinah is building interrogation rooms with weapons, armories to arrest and prosecute people for climate crimes. If you think this is not serious, obviously it's serious. They're going to use climate and the problems with climate that they are creating with scalar wave. They're creating the problems. They're going to use this to harm and potentially kill a lot of people. If you think it was bad with the bug, maybe that's why I should say that. If you think it's bad with the bug, wait till you get a hold of what they're going to do with the climate. Natural News says this week we all learned how France is arming up to 3,000 new green police to arrest and prosecute people for so-called climate crimes. Now, wait a minute. This is Canada building interrogation rooms for people that break their climate crimes laws. This is France. They're arming up to 3,000 green police. You remember that the IRS is hiring now 87,000 new people, and they put out an ad, I showed you that ad, that they're looking for people that are willing to carry a firearm, work 50-plus hours a week, be on call 24 hours a day, and willing to use deadly force if necessary. France, arming okay, now, understand they're coming to a new world order. This is not just one country. This is not just one place that does it. They're coming to a time to where no one can buy or sell, say he had the mark of the name of the beast or the number of his name. France arming 3,000. America arming 87,000. What do you think's up? They're about to do some very bad things that they know the public, not just in America, but now also in France. But look, if it's America, if it's France, if it's Canada, you know it's happening around the globe. I mean, it's a global policy here. It's already happening in China. France is arming 3,000 new green police to arrest, prosecute people for so-called climate crimes, which could mean almost anything, including exhaling carbon dioxide. Now, the countersignal is reporting that the Canadian government is constructing a new climate crimes prosecution interrogation facility to do much the same thing, only it gets worse. This facility contains interrogation rooms and weapons armories. Then we jump to the next article. Here it is, 87,000 IRS agents set to become Dems' woke army. Now, why do you think that they're really doing this? I think that it is a counter to the internal revolution. We know that there's several prophecies, including Dimitri Duduman, said the fall of America would start with an internal revolution in America. And several people have seen tanks literally rolling down Pennsylvania Avenue, going into the Supreme Court, the White House, and the Congress, and arresting people. You have to remember, again, if you don't understand that these people have high technology that we don't know about, we don't understand, we couldn't even conceive of it, they can see the future. They know this internal revolution is coming. Remember, one of them said, there's an event coming we're trying to stop. We don't know how to stop it. Well, obviously, one of those events is return of Jesus. No, stop that. My guess is it's the internal revolution. They're doing everything they can to try to stop the overthrow of their regime. So this article goes on to say, the IRS commissioner has said he wants to massively strengthen the agency's criminal investigation division. Why does he want to do that? Obviously, the IRS is about to do some things that the average American isn't going to like. Isn't going to like bad enough to where they're going to say, I'm going to pick up my shooting irons. Obviously, they're going to do something bad enough to where they're having to hire people that are willing to kill Americans, which, according to him, currently employs approximately 1,500 agents. However, sources claim that the actual number of actual special agents is several times that figure, probably the truth. A recent IRS recruitment ad on jobs.gov, I showed it to you, said the key requirement for applicants is that they have to be legally allowed to carry a firearm, and major duties include carrying a firearm and willing to use deadly force if necessary, and be willing and able to participate in arrest, execution, and search warrants and other dangerous assignments, and look good doing it. The next day, the ad had been rewritten to omit the references of deadly force. Now, Natural News says, breaking. Americans in Ukraine must leave immediately, warns U.S. State Department. Russian retaliation for car bombing assassination now imminent. All of this, so many things falling apart in our world, not just our nation, our world. All of this is saying that we are moving closer to the tribulation, closer to the time when Revelation 6:1 happens. And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard as it were the noise of thunder, which is the event that starts the 7-year tribulation. Let me refresh your memory. I read this a week or so ago, too. Dimitri Duduman, 1996. Part of it said, watch where the Russians penetrate America. I saw the words Alaska, Minnesota, and Florida. And, by the way, would you believe others have seen those same places? Then the man spoke again and said, when America goes to war with China, the Russians will strike America without warning. Now, with that in mind, keep that in mind as we go through this. Putin's horror Poseidon superweapon now capable of decimating entire cities. So it goes on to say Poseidon is the Russian president's nuclear-armed submarine drone that can zip through the waters at a speed of 125 miles. Now, think about that. This is, we're talking about underwater, moving through the water at 125 miles an hour. That's the speed of a plane. 125, that it's so fast that there's not anything that can catch it under the water. So once they launch this thing, unless they were to be able to get in front of it with a ship or something, and I doubt that, they're not going to be able to stop it. Okay, so what does it do? While the speed is slower than other intercontinental ballistic missiles, it's reportedly fast enough to make it uncatchable by existing torpedoes. It is officially known as the Intercontinental Nuclear-Powered, Nuclear-Armed Autonomous Torpedo. So it's basically kind of an unmanned submarine that they drop in the water, and it goes to wherever. And now get this. A horror nuclear warhead, once triggered, can generate tsunami, sending gigantic waves crashing into enemy coastlines. And it is powered by a nuclear reactor, worryingly giving the weapon practically unlimited range that can strike anywhere. Or, say, what if they've already dropped it? What if it's already out there just sitting on some sea bottom someplace, right next to where they want to set it off? Maybe it's already in place. At any one time, they start deciding that they're going to destroy America. They just set them off. Remember, Dmitry said from the oceans, Russia, Cuba, Nicaragua, Central America, Mexico, and 2 of the countries will attack from the oceans. This is from the ocean. Russia said it eventually wants 16 Poseidon drones on duty with Russia's Northern Fleet, with a possible total of 30 altogether. We're talking about 30 of them. They don't need 30 of them to destroy America. Probably 2 or 3 on each of our coastlines, and maybe 1 up the Gulf, and we're toast, especially after we've already been hit with the Great Lakes opening up all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico, and 400-foot tsunami hitting the East Coast, and then all up and down the West Coast from California all the way up into Alaska is what, what's his name? Efraim Rodriguez saw, and that was in February of 2014, came to speak to Prophecy Club. So you can tell when the tribulation gets close when you see these kind of steps heading toward world war. And there's more. Most important news says the layoff tsunami that has begun. 50% of the U.S. companies plan to eliminate jobs within the next 12 months. Well, Stan has it relate. Well, it does, because we have several other prophecies that said the thing that starts this will be the fall of the dollar. And a dollar doesn't fall gradually, or we'd be able to see that and be able to prepare. Several of them said it happens overnight. One guy said that it happens over a weekend. One guy said he put in his credit card to get $20, decided that wasn't enough money, put his credit card back in, and all of a sudden now the whole system had changed just that quick. Chinese president due in Saudi Arabia to tighten economic ties. You remember, Shane Warren told us this is coming, said that when they start selling Saudi crude oil in something other than the dollar, that's going to crash the dollar. If you've been following Prophecy Club for a while, your eyes are rolling out on your cheeks, your mouth has dropped open, and you're saying, it's happening. And matter of fact, let me give you a story. So this was, I don't know how I remember. It had to be God, how I remember all this stuff. It was December 22nd, 1989. My back was hurting that morning, and so I was still in bed. It was about 8 o'clock. And came on CNN. This is long before Fox News. Came on CNN. Ceausescu's been shot. Romania is having a revolution. And I sat up in bed, and I thought, oh, no, it's true. Well, I knew it's true. But, man, it's happening now. And that's the point, one of those happening now moments. This is happening now. The things we've been talking about for, 4 or 5 years, some of them all the way back to 32 years, here, many of them are in the process of starting. So I'm watching this. By that time the phone rings, my mom calls from Texas. You watching the news? Yes. About the Romanian revolution? Yes. She said, didn't you tell me this is going to happen? I said, yes, I did. She says, okay, tell me again. What else did you say? See, and that's the moment, brothers and sisters, we're looking for. That's why you got to send this stuff out to them now. You can't wait till it happens. Say, oh, I knew this was going to happen. You got to send it now, with the risk that they're going to make fun of you, with the risk you'll lose a friend. Send it to them now. Things you know are confirmed in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses. That afternoon, I walked into the office. Elsie was the secretary. I was working for someone else at the time. And she says, have you seen the news? I said, no, I normally just watch CNN from the news. I feel like I need to wash my mouth out just saying that today. I normally watch CNN from a news. Why? She says, well, have you heard that Romania is having a revolution? Yes. She said, didn't you tell me that was going to happen? And I said, yes, I did. She says, okay, tell me again. What else did you say? And I said, well, it wasn't me saying it was Dmitry Duduman, but here's what he said. That's what we want, my brothers and sisters. We want this into their hands so that we can prove that we knew this was coming. We want it into their hands before it comes. So that's the reason you got to send this out now. So, look, grab the link. You just do a copy paste, put it into an email, send it out to your friends. They may think you're crazy. But then when some of this stuff starts coming to pass, you got a foot in the door, so to speak. And you can call them, you can email them and say, do you remember? On such and such date and time, I sent you this email. I told you this was coming. And all of a sudden, a lot of people don't want to have anything to do with Jesus. Okay. What else did you say? Chinese president due in Saudi Arabia to tighten economic ties. You remember Shane Warren said that when they stop selling crude oils, Saudi Arabia, selling crude oil, specifically crude oil, in dollar denominations, that's going to crash the dollar. Boom. Here it is. And the visit might see an arrangement by the kingdom to sell oil to China in exchange for its yuan currency in addition to military agreements. We talked about that too. August 24th of 2021, the Saudis signed an agreement with the Russians that the Russians are now going to be the one that is protecting them as opposed to the American military. Because back in like 1972, they made an agreement. Yeah, we'll protect you, but you got to make all of your oil sales in dollar. That forced the other 200 some odd nations of the world that wanted to buy Saudi oil, they'd have to go and first get their dollars, and then they exchange in dollars, and then they get the crude oil. Well, that means that the dollar became the reserve currency, the primary currency on the globe. That means that it made the dollar more valuable, more stronger. And as a result of that, the dollar became strong and bigger. Well, problem is now, I'm telling you, the dollar is about to crash. I don't know when. I don't see how it can be too much longer. Anyway, let's go on. So the two countries seeking to enhance economic cooperation. The article openly says that. The upcoming visit, if it takes place, will have great implications, most notably for what Saudi-American relations are going through in terms of great coldness. You recall, Biden was going to go to Saudi Arabia, and they said, don't bother. I mean, can you blame them? So, I mean, the devil is in charge of our nation right now, my brothers and sisters. We got to pray. We got to pray. We got to pray. Russia plans to decouple from the dollar, euro, and SWIFT system. Well, why should they stay with it? They set up economic blocks and walls so that they couldn't be a part of the SWIFT system anymore. The SWIFT system is the system we've been operating on since at least World War II. And they're coming in with a new system called the SIPS system, which is going to be eventually a digital system. So this is another confirmation the dollar is in the process of dying. Russia is looking into its own gold standard after LBMA ban. So they're cutting Russia out. Russia has no other choice but to start its own financial system. And, sad to say, many of the other nations of the world are jumping onto Russia's financial system. Russia starts another financial system, backs it with gold, backs it with crude oil. And what happens if Saudis say everybody now, if they want to buy Saudi gold, has to buy it in Russian rubles? Dollar dies overnight. It says Russia is proposing its own international standard for precious metals after getting banned by the London Bullion Market Association. And it could have a fixed price in national currencies. The country's finance ministry is to create a new Moscow world standard. What is that? They're replacing the London Bullion Market Association for selling and pricing gold with the Russians. Okay, so if they're changing the way gold is traded, they're in the process of changing. I'm talking about the Russians. They're in the Russian. Let me say it again. The Russians are in the process of changing the way gold is traded. We know they're in process of changing how crude oil is traded. It's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time before we see the dollar fall. And it's probably a short time. So create the new Moscow world standard to normalize the functioning of the precious metals industry, which, by the way, I have to say, I think it's a very good idea for people to have some gold and silver. I didn't plan on talking about it here, but I'd recommend you call cornerstoneassetmetals.com. Go to cornerstoneassetmetals.com. Start talking to them. Start opening an account. Find out what I have to do to get some gold and silver. I recommend at a minimum, everybody has a handful of gold and a handful of silver. The only difference is a handful of gold is pretty valuable, but have a lot of silver, you're probably going to have boxes full of it, probably even like a pickup load full of it. But anyway, I do recommend you call cornerstoneassetmetals.com. Start talking to them about getting yourself some gold and silver. Anyway, the last thing I want to point out here is they're talking about setting up this Moscow World Standard, which is headquartered in Moscow. If you just take a second and just think, what are they doing? All of this is about to crash our dollar. That's one of the prophecies of the first things we look for when the Russians are going to attack and defeat America in 1 day and 1 hour. French President Emmanuel Macron said today that it is the end of abundance and warns that a time of sacrifice is coming. But did he mean just France? No, they're doing it globally. If we just look at what they're saying and just believe them, now's the time to get prepared. First thing is to have Jesus in your heart. Ask God to forgive you. Ask Jesus to forgive your sins. And then get yourself some preparations. I actually cooked this loaf of bread you're seeing here. Takes me about 10 minutes to put the ingredients together, push it in, put it into a bread machine, push a button, 2 hours, 20 minutes later, I get a loaf of bread out like that. So on that basis, one loaf can sustain, I didn't say it's everything we want, can sustain one person for a week. Go to most of these places, they say out of stock. So here's what you want to do. Everybody needs to get a machine package. These are the things that you need to grind the wheat berries. Put them into a grinder. 30 seconds later, you have flour. You put that into the bread machine along with 6 other ingredients. Push about 2 hours, 20 minutes later, you have a nice hot loaf of whole wheat bread. Then you have to decide how much food you want. You want food 2 people 1 year, 4 people 1 year, 6 people 1 year. And if you want to make certain you have it when the electricity goes down, you can also get yourself a solar generator, all at josephskitchen.com. josephskitchen.com.